What's up, everyone? Welcome to Unmasked, where things are discovered, uncovered, brought to the light, and made known. I'm your host, Lamar Barrett, coming live to you from PG County, Maryland. If you're interested in finding out about the untold stories behind being a college coach, this is the show for you. Being a former assistant men's college basketball coach for 16 years, there are so many untold stories behind the scenes in the life of a college basketball coach. Now, let's unmask them. Today's guest is a former head coach, a longtime assistant coach, an outstanding mentor for young coaches in the business, and a DMV native, Kevin Nickelberry. Now, Kevin is a Virginia Wesleyan grad, graduated in 1986, got into coaching in 1991, where he was the head women's coach at Columbia Union for 3 years, assistant men's, so he was double dipping at the same time, where he was the assistant men's for 2 years. And then from there, he went on to Howard University for 4 years, and then Monmouth University for 1 year. That was right around the time that I probably met Kevin Nickelberry. And then he was up at Holy Cross for 2 years with Coach Ralph Willett. And from there, he went to UNC Charlotte, where in another successful, 2-year run at UNC Charlotte. And then he was at Clemson for 3 years. As an assistant coach with Oliver Purnell, and then on to Hampton University as a head coach from 06 to 09 for 3 years. And then 1 year, he actually coached over in Libya for the 09-10 season, coached the national team over in Libya, and then becomes the head coach at Howard University for 9 years. So he was 9 years back at home in Washington, D.C. And then this past season, he was an assistant to the head coach at LSU, and now he is presently assistant coach at LSU. And I want to say welcome to the show, good friend, a good mentor. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thanks for having me, Lamar. Always good to talk to you.
You know what, Kevin, we'll get right into it. Let's go ahead and get unmasked. First question I like to ask a guest is, there's no handbook to being a college coach. So yours is a little different because you went right from being into a head women's coach and then assistant men's coach. So yours might be a little different when you got to Howard or even when you went to Monmouth. But there's no handbook. Tell me about your first day, first week, first month after things are done with human resources and orientation, especially when no one gives you direction. Tell me what's that like?
You talking about being a head coach or being an assistant coach?
It could be assistant coach.
Okay, well, luckily for me, when I went to Virginia Wesleyan College, I'm coming from DC, and I thought I was going to be Mr. Virginia Wesleyan. I thought DMV was the best players. I played in a league with Lim Bias and all those guys in PG County. I'm just thinking at that point that my high school team was just really good, and they didn't see how good I was. But I was going to go to this Division II, Division III, and I was going to dominate. And I went there, and I was lucky enough I was there with Bob Valvano, Jim's brother, and a couple other people went there as well. I think the best thing that happened to me was that my coach at that time, made me sit out my first year because I had an attitude problem, I guess. I was very overly confident. And that second year, I kind of was a scout guy, and had to play JV, and then I dressed for every varsity game. I think I probably maybe played in 1 or 2 games my whole career. So after that second year, I grew up a little bit, and he had me work Old Dominion's camp, and I met Coach Purnell and some other guys who were assistants at the time there, and ended up doing a GA there, a graduate assistant there while I was still in college. So I was able to look to watch Eddie Jordan and those guys who were assistants there and see how they did it. So I got more a class within a class as a young guy, still 20 years old. I was able to see how they did it as an assistant coach. And then obviously when I graduated from college, I went to the business world and learned a little bit about business. And I was working out some local guys in DC, and I didn't have a gym, so I went over to Columbia Union, and used their gym, and the coach at the time liked what I was doing, working these guys out, and asked me what, on the spot, would I like to help him out. So I became an assistant coach with him while I still was doing business ventures. And, I was blessed enough to be entrepreneur of the year, up and coming entrepreneur of the year in the DC area, owned some investments, started my own PR marketing firm. So I had a lot of experiences that I didn't realize would help me later as I became a coach. Those experiences selling and doing PR and marketing would help me with recruiting. Those experiences with my business would help me manage, maybe great at time management, and also as far as projecting things, looking at a path and what I wanted to do and not do, and having some success. I knew that I was going to take that same energy into coaching. So I had some success as the women's coach there, and obviously in the 1 year I was in one of our years I was the men's assistant. We actually went to the NAI national championships, the first time and the only time in school history we were able to do that. And our women's team was very successful. I think I took over a team which became my pedigree, became my moniker, is that I took over a team that won 1 or 2 games. We won 15, 16, 17 games for 3 years. And so I was comfortable taking over teams that weren't that successful and using my PR background, my building background to learn how to build. And so, actually going into Howard Withers, which is another bad program at the time, as an assistant with Mike McLeese. He was a great mentor, and he used my business background a lot. I was involved with a lot of, he allowed me to be involved with a lot of the building aspects of the program, and I learned a lot quickly. And so when I actually went on that first, I don't want to say real head coaching job, assistant coaching job, but Monmouth was a little bit different than Howard. It was the first time I was out of my comfort zone. I was out of the DC area. And so, I felt ready, especially ready to recruit. And we were able to recruit my first many rookie of the years, Alpha Bangor from Eleanor Roosevelt. And we brought 4 guys from the DC area. We had one of the top recruiting class, I still think, in the history of Monmouth University. It was an unbelievable freshman recruiting class. And unfortunately, after 1 year, I ended up leaving and going to Holy Cross. But that first day, I knew I could recruit. I was able to establish different things with my PR background, with my experience being a GA at Old Dominion, to where I was able to walk in and know that I could recruit. And I was lucky enough to go get with guys like Ralph Willard, who also taught me how to be a head coach as well.
Awesome. And you talked about recruiting, which is good, because that leads to the next thing. Like, what was your best, and this is from an assistant standpoint, what was your best and worst recruiting story? We all know that recruiting is the lifeline of college coaching. And it could be even when you were a head coach. Like, what was your best and worst recruiting story?
Well, my best was probably Eddie Baston. I mean, I had some success with other guys, and I would probably have to put Eddie and Alpha together, because they're always going to be connected as far as my success and my history, because I was at UNC Charlotte at the time, and we obviously not a lot of people knew about Alpha Bangor, and for him to go to Monmouth and be an unbelievable freshman who eventually transferred and went to St. John's, and no one really knew about him, and for me to see him and believe in him and project what he was going to be when I was at Charlotte, that was really the larger stage, the first probably, which gave me the reputation as a recruiter. Obviously, at Holy Cross, I think in my 3 years there, I had recruited 4 or 5 rookie of the years, because even when I left, some of the guys I recruited ended up becoming rookie of the years and player of the years. So, and we were very successful. But, Charlotte was the first Power Five, because we at that time Charlotte was in Conference USA with Cincinnati and Marquette with Dwayne Wade, and Cincinnati with Kenyon Martin, and we actually won the league. So so Eddie, was a kid at Roosevelt, and not a lot of people knew about. And I had some success with Roosevelt kids before, obviously with Alpha Bangor, and to be honest with you, he wasn't somebody who Charlotte felt like we needed to have, but it was something that I felt I needed to have. We needed to have. So I really did a great job of selling that to my boss at the time, and Eddie ended up being the first player in UNC Charlotte history to be the defensive player of the year and the player of the year. He had an unbelievable college career, and that was probably the best success story, because I was, I've had a lot of rookie years and player of the years, but that for me, that was a great one. Probably the worst was when I was in Hampton. I was a head coach in Hampton. My first recruit in Hampton, a kid named Theo Smalling, played for me. He was the first recruit out of Florida. Me being a father, I was a young father at the time, and I was young kids. And on his birthday, he ended up, someone, unfortunately, I had just left Hampton and went to Libya. I was in Africa at the time, and I got a phone call, and on his birthday, him and some other the teammates, one of the other teammates, I guess, had a gun, and they were going into somewhere for his birthday, and one of the teammates threw the gun in the back seat, and it went off and shot him, and eventually he ended up passing away. And I remember rushing back and to the hospital, and it was surreal just dealing with that, knowing that was the first kid I asked to come to Hampton to start my career as a head coach at the Division I level, and to have that happen to me, it was definitely something that you remember, and it probably made me a lot tougher as a head coach, and I probably tightened my grip on players a little bit more after that, just because you want to let them enjoy their college careers, but it probably made me be a little bit more of a maybe overwhelming a little bit sometimes. I learned a lot as a head coach, and hopefully you never stop learning. But those two situations probably were the two most for me.
Oh, that's a tough one, man, right there. Like that they losing the kid, especially you invested time in, and then I got to hear the story of Eddie Bass and Alpha Bangor, two guys I coached against. So that wasn't good for me when I'm listening, because I having to play against those guys.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna ask you, this is from a head coaching standpoint. Do you recall anything where an assistant, and you could just choose either one, you don't have to do both, did a great or a horrible job recruiting that you just was like, what are you thinking about? Like, what did you do that? Can you think of that when you assistant came back to you and you just was like shaking your head, like whether the kid just wasn't good enough, or too good enough, and like, why are we wasting our time?
We always have that. You always have that kid who is not, you don't think meets the standards that you want, and you sit in the locker room, you blame the assistant coach. I can't believe you. But at the end of the day, you have to live with the players that you decide to give scholarships to, and and you have to live with it. I mean, again, like I said, you learn from your experiences, and I'm not sure if I'm ever going. Right now, I don't have a desire to be a head coach right now. Today, I'm happy with what I'm doing. Kind of take a deep breath from being a head coach for 13, 14 straight years. So, you definitely have those moments when you I don't want to say regret, but maybe that kid wasn't a fit for your program. But I think the next time I become a head coach, if that happens, I'll learn from it. You always can learn. When you stop learning, then you stop growing as a coach. But I definitely remember when I was at Hampton, I thought I had an unbelievable staff at Hampton, and had Chris Pompey and Buck Joyner, and they were able to. I took the job late, and we were able to put together. Again, this is going to sound crazy, but that was probably the best recruiting class in the MEAC history. We were able to bring in Matt Pilgrim and Mike Freeman and just a Theo Small, just uh, an unbelievable recruiting class. I think Hoop Group had it as one of the top 50 recruiting classes in the country. We started all 5 freshmen, I think, that year. It was, so for Pompey and Buck Joyner, who's become an unbelievable head coach at Hampton, to do what they were able to do to help me put that program quickly on the map and the jump started. They did an unbelievable job, and those two did a great job when I was at Hampton. That stands out to me because, again, I probably don't stay a head coach and don't. I probably got the Howard job based on the recruits we brought in Hampton, to be honest with you.
So true. This is what I'm gonna ask you because this is gonna help some other young coaches. I don't think people understand that. Like, you named the head coach at Hampton, right? First time. You prepared for this for all the years you've been an assistant coach. You excited. You got your own program. Like, what happens next over the next few months? I don't think people understand, like, once you get the job, you sit behind a desk, you happy, but, like, now you got to go to work. Like, what was that like the next few months, man?
Once I became a head coach? Well, I mean, obviously your mind has to change, and thank God I was with guys like Ralph Willard and Oliver Purnell, who were great mentors to me, and they always talked about me being a head coach, and that sometimes you work for guys who don't want you to be head coaches, and they're mad when you leave, but those guys always push me, and to this day, those guys, I tell them I love them, they tell me that they love me, and we have a really special relationship, and I'm always indebted to how they invested in me. So I think I was unbelievably prepared. I knew I had already written my first 30-day book. I had already had a book prepared for the first 30 days. What I needed to do recruiting wise, and what I needed to say to the players, and making sure that your vision is told to the players and to the staff, and is consistent, and how we wanted to play, and making sure we recruit players that fit that mold. We wanted to be long, and we wanted to be athletic. We wanted to be able to play positionless basketball even back then, and that was something we had started to do at Clemson. So but it can become overwhelming. I mean, you think, oh, well, I'm a head coach now, I'm the guy, but also the other side of it is you are the guy. And so all the decisions and all the mistakes and all the good and bad comes with you. Now, you're the person. I mean, for all you black assistants, sometimes I say to all the young guys, you never can get comfortable because you're one DUI or one domestic violence from being unemployed. And even when you're working for somebody, if your boss is in that situation, if he gets a DUI or do something crazy, you're unemployed. I mean, if you're a head coach, you have that responsibility of everybody who works with you. And I learned, and that's the big thing. Again, what I said, who works with you. That's what I learned from my first job to my second job. Because when I first got into coaching, it was who worked for me. But then as I got more experience, it became who works with me. And when you can have some success, and when you mature, you realize you do a lot better job when you have people working with you, and you're pushing those guys to be successful. And I've been blessed enough to have a lot of former guys who worked with me, from Will Wade, who was my GA at Clemson, to being a head coach, to Buck Joyner, to guys in the SEC. Now I'm looking to have to Nima at George Washington, who was worked with me at Howard. There's a lot of guys who've been assistants with me for short periods of time or long periods of time, who are now big time assistants at high majors or who work head coaches, and that's and I've been blessed to have some really good guys working with me, and so it's growing up. You grow up when you go to college. You grow up when you get into coaching, but you have to grow up a little bit when you become a head coach, and realize that responsibility is yours, and you have to be able to take responsibility. And a lot of coaches struggle, I think, when the losing comes. Everything's great when you win, but when you have that 4 or 5 game losing streak, have you created a foundation that you are able to survive? And are you able to surround yourself with enough people who will tell you the truth? And luckily, I have been able to surround myself with people who've been able to tell me, hey, man, you need to chill. Because I've gone through stages where I was the yelling coach to the funny coach to the chill coach and back and forth and realizing what works and what doesn't work for me. So, again, luckily, like I said, the biggest thing for me, I work for guys who kind of talked me through it and prepared me to what to do with those first 30 to 90 days and what it looked like.
Good nuggets right there, man. I hope these young guys aspiring to be a coach definitely listen to you. Like, we all know scouting, man. Like, you work for, Ralph Willard, probably one of the most detailed guys you ever could work for. And you can always tell, like, who's on the side, whose scouting report it is, whether when you're an assistant. That's the most vocal guy. He's jumping up and down. Like, what was your best and worst scouting report that you've had, like, through your career that you can remember?
The best was probably the championship game at Holy Cross when we played in the championship game. Again, you got to understand, when you work for Ralph Willard, you have to know every player, every play, every formation, and you have to be able to deliver that to the team with no notes. I mean, and he's a genius. He can remember every name. So if you give a wrong name, he's right in there. That's not his name. That's not the play. He's not worrying about your feelings at that point. He's making sure the players know the play and know the player, know what they could do and can't do. So if you have an ego and you have that type of situation, you probably can't work for a guy like Ralph Willard because he's going to hold you to task, but he's going to make you a better coach, make you a better person, make you a better scout. But we were, obviously, I think it was our first championship game. We had to scout, and I think we were playing Bucknell in the championship, and we had struggled with them during the year. And I had suggested to coach that maybe we run our matchup zone, and even there's a couple ways where we run our matchup zones. You can switch 1 through 3, and only the big switch, and you keep your big underneath the basket, or you can switch 1 through 4 and keep your 5 underneath the basket. There are a lot of different ways to run the matchup zone. And I think I suggested to him, let's switch 1 through 4, and not so our 5 doesn't have to run to the corners. Let's keep underneath the basket, keep him out of foul trouble, because every game we were getting in foul trouble. He didn't really want to do it, but I was able to talk him into it, and I think we got down 11-1, and he gave me that Ralph Willard stare that you can only get when he like, what have you made me do? Like, are you crazy? This is not working. And thank God we went on a run, and it started to pan out. They got a little slightly confused because their whole offense was designed on spreading us out, making my 5 have to go to the corners, playing 5-out basketball. And we were able to bump that situation throughout the whole game. And bump is bumping the guard back to the corner so that we don't have to bring people out. We were able to bump that down and make them pretty much settle with perimeter shots and not creating mismatches where our bigs were on the perimeter with guards, and it worked. We were able to win, and ended up going to the NCAA tournament, and we lost at the buzzer to Kentucky. Tayshaun Prince had an unbelievable shot to win. That kind of set the Patriot League on its little run of Patriot League winning games in the NCAA tournament. So that was my best scout. I think my worst scout was probably at Clemson when we press. Obviously, everything we did was pressing and getting after people, and I think the scout was. I think we were playing NC State. I think was the scout, and I suggested that we go under the ball screens because at that time, they were trying to get to the paint touches. That's how they played, trying to get paint touches. I suggested we go underneath the ball screens, and we normally blitz ball screens, but they kind of hurt us during the year with that because their guards were so good at the time. And I said we need to go under and make them. We live with their jump shots. Well, I think they hit like 9 or 10 threes in a game, and it wasn't pretty. And coach made sure I knew that that wasn't that he'll never do that again. So I learned from it, and sometimes you learn that you can't overanalyze sometimes you just gotta live with how you guys play and what you do, and make them beat you at what you do best.
So true. Now I'm gonna ask you this from a head coach's standpoint, because we all know that assistant, they'll say stuff like, "Kid, and he's like 3 for his last 35 from 3." We'll be like, "Coach, we should just like, he can't shoot," and then that guy goes and make 4 or 5 threes, and you turn into the assistant like, "I thought he couldn't shoot, huh?" Like, or like things that they do. Is there any story that sticks out about an assistant coach with a scout report? We don't have to say names, but do you remember one that you just like lit into that coach is like, what were you thinking about that?
Oh yeah, we went into a game, and it happened this year as well when I was an assistant. But I was in Hampton, and I'll say the name because I think it was Pompey. We were in Hampton, and no, it actually wasn't Pompey. I can't remember what the assistant was, but we were in Hampton, and we were playing a game, and we had lost the first game to them in a really close game, and the second time we played South Carolina State, they had a big guy who was a really awful free throw shooter. Awful. He was like atrocious, and we, assistant coach had made me believe that if the game was close, that let's just keep fouling him down the stretch and make him beat us. So it was a 2-point game down the stretch. We were up 2, and a couple of minutes ago in the game, and we were scoring, they were scoring. We couldn't stop each other at that point, and we had a timeout up 2, and a minute to go, I think, in the game, and they had the ball, and we had stopped them in 4 or 5 possessions. And the assistant coach said, "Let's just foul him." I said, "I don't want to foul him. So let's just foul him, coach. 2. If he's not going to make them both, but if he makes splits them, we're still up 1. But we let them come run offense, they make a 3, we're down, and we don't want to lose this game at home." So I said, "Okay, let's foul. Let's foul." I said, again, I'm double checking, my arms folded. What's he shoot from the free throw line? They're like, he's a career 30-something%, 38% free throw shooter. Hadn't shot any in that game. So we go down and we wait. They don't give him the ball until, the shot clock was down to like 6 seconds. They threw him the ball and we fouled him, which I don't think they would have got a good shot up anyway because the shot clock. But, I had told him to foul him as soon as he touches it. So as soon as he touched it with like less than 10 seconds on the shot clock, we foul him, and I call a timeout. Once he gets the ball, I call a timeout to freeze him even more, and I'm trying to talk myself, and my assistant's like, "Oh, he's gonna miss one of these. He's gonna miss one of these." So he goes up there with the worst looking free throw I've ever seen in my life. He didn't even bounce the ball. The referee gave it to him. He just picked it up, and it hit every part of the rim and backboard and went in. And I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe he just made that." But again, he made it a tough one. It hit everything. I called another timeout. He can't. There's no way. Called another timeout. He comes out and doesn't. This time he dribbles the ball twice. It's just different. No pattern to what he's doing, and he swishes the free throw. No net, no rim, no nothing. And I glared, and they called a timeout after the free throw to tie it up. I glared at the assistant probably the entire timeout. And that's what you do as a head coach, but we ended up winning the game. So at that point, it didn't matter. But there was that 2 minutes left in the game became a 10-minute horse trick back and forth, and that assistant didn't make eye contact with me for a while, to be honest with you. So and that was probably the worst.
I had to laugh on that one. Wow. What's the biggest challenge you think you've experienced since you've been a college coach?
Probably just being able to stand up for my guys. I'm a very outspoken guy, as you know, and I've been in some situations. I don't really want to tell situations where we've had some coaches, especially early in my career, where I basically had to stand up, and one of my jobs I actually had to leave because they weren't willing to, support a kid who had heard some racist things, and they they were willing to support the kid, and the kid, felt strongly about it, and the kid actually transferred. And the next day I actually, resigned, and that was tough for my family and me, but I felt that I needed to stand up for the players, and the player, and that was tough. I mean, that's some of the tough things when you're an assistant, you feel like you need to be a voice sometimes for the voiceless, because some coaches, it's their world and it's what they think, and I get it. I mean, and if I'm being transparent, I mean, I went to some times at Howard where I learned that I didn't like myself a couple of years there at Howard. I mean, the pressure and the dealing with some of the newer kids we deal with today, and kids are different today than when I first became head coach, and you got to adjust with the times. And I probably didn't do a great job adjusting with all the input from parents and all the outside noise. I grew up in a time, and it's my 31st year coaching, where players don't try to find the right answer. Sometimes players now in this day, they'll keep going around till they find someone tells them what they want to hear. I was used to them listening to the coach, and then you had another person to reinforce it at home or somewhere else, and that's what it was. What the coach and said, usually that person in their life will reinforce it. But times have changed, and I get it, and I fought it for a minute, and like I said, I'm more used to, like, I've learned it's better to be yourself, and you don't want the situations to change who you are. You want to stay as much true to who you are as possible. I think you get the most out of your players, you get the most out of yourself, and you also get the most out of your family, and where it doesn't affect your family because how you change as a person. You never want your job to change you. If you get to that point, it's time for you to leave.
So true, man. Now, do you ever find that there are things about you that people misunderstand? Or what are they?
My passion. I think my passion, and they don't. A lot of people don't see the unbelievable amount of time I probably spend as a head coach. Spend more time recruiting players, talking to players, spending time with them off the court, probably than any coach in the country. I mean, I still have unbelievable relationships with, I would say, 95% of the players that I coach. But I also, when early in my career, like I said, I've had 3 or 4 players I haven't had to go to funerals with. Jabari Utz at Howard got in a car accident when I was after, obviously Theo Smalling I talked about. Uh, um, uh, uh, I've had other players pass away, and when that happens, it hardens you a little bit. So sometimes you have to be, like, kids don't go to class. I'm really hard. I don't play about the education, and I've had to be hard and sit kids and do those things, and I want the players sometimes to be more afraid of me, so they don't get in the car with somebody driving who's maybe is intoxicated. That they have to think about, wow, if I get in this car, coach is gonna be mad at me. So sometimes I had to change and be this mean, mad person to make sure that those things that happened to me early in my career didn't happen again. It puts a kind of, so again, I'm in, and when the game starts, I'm a very intense person. When the game's over, it's over for me. I'm a different person. I'm probably bipolar a little bit. When the game starts, I'm a different person. When the game's over, I'm coaching Nick. The guys laughing and joking, and I don't carry things, And like I said, it's been very few times in my career that I regretted some of the things I've done and said, and all coaches go through that, I guess. And I'm always trying to get better as a coach and better as a person. And I'm an imperfect man trying to do perfect things. And I get that, and sometimes we forget, we don't humanize, we don't tend to humanize coaches and realize. So, I tell all the young coaches, the easy part is coaching in a game. It's all the other things you have to deal with from coaching that takes a toll on your body. And, for me to last 9 years and then 3 years at Howard, Hampton, and 1 year in Libya and Africa, to 14 straight years as a head coach, that's a pretty long run. And it will wear you down. It will take its toll on you, and so my hat's off to the Leonard Hamiltons and the Coach K's who've done it for such a long time, straight years, and Because most of the time you coach to get fired, you coach to change jobs, and to last 14 years as a head coach straight, can be tough. So, but I'm also that guy, and I'll be totally honest with you and frank with you, Lamar. I don't need any new friends, so I'm very outspoken. I'm the guy, I'm the guy at the BCA meetings is going to speak up. Okay, why isn't this guy have a job? Why are we trying to get these guys job? I'm the guy at AAU who tournament. I'm going to come to the gym. I'm gonna be Nick. I'm gonna laugh. I'm gonna joke. I'm gonna enjoy the moment. I'm not worried about those people who sit there writing notes and stare at me like, why are you laughing? Because I can recruit. I don't need to write 4,000 notes. I know who can play, who can't. I've done my research before I walked in the gym. So, I'm going to enjoy that camaraderie with those guys in the gym. And I'm going to always be that guy, and some people don't like that. I get it. I mean, and Coach Nick's not serious enough all the time. I get it. But I want to enjoy what I do every day. I used to enjoy it, and those moments when I haven't enjoyed it is when I've changed. And like I said, I don't need any new friends. I got enough. And this is off subject a little bit. I will tell all the young coaches, keep your circle small. Keep your circle small. Surround yourself with people who don't have an agenda, who have your best interests at heart. Those are the people going to help you in this business, because everyone's trying to. You may not know. There's a lot of people who want your job or trying to get your job, and you're going against people who are recruiting the same people you're recruiting, and it's negative recruiting. It's great. It's things said, but you can't take any of that personal. This is a business, and the only time your business gets separated from the business is that small circle you have that you can communicate with and keep yourself sane.
Nick, I'm glad you said that, man. And that's why everybody love you, because you are who you are and you don't change. And I always say, make sure you don't ever do that. What would you try? Because we all know what we're in, what type of business we're in, and you've had good people to help you along the way. But what would you try to teach your players, or what have you to teach your players besides basketball?
Well, the biggest thing for me is that, like I said, I spent, growing up the way I grew up in tough PG County and in DC. I grew up pretty tough, and it was tough growing up, and didn't always have everything, and so I was so driven to be successful and to not, be that guy still in the neighborhood. And so I was so driven to be successful in my personal and my business life and in my coaching life that in my first, 10 or 15 years of my coaching career, everything was designed around changing me, changing my lifestyle, changing, where I was, changing what school I coached at, changing the level I coached at. I focused on that so much in the beginning that was what it was all about. And as I matured, the last 15 years of my career has been about changing the young men that I coach. Trying to block out, now I've had situations where I haven't agreed with some parents, but when I talk to those kids, privately, I try to make them understand you may not want to hear this, but this is in 30 years, when you're 33 years old, I've had so many players call me, when they got in their 20s and 30s, and scary thing is in their 40s, that means how long I've been coaching, that, they'll call me coach. I remember what you said when I was 18 and 19 years old. It means something, because we have to sometimes be truthful with these young men about life and some of the things we teach them. And, and so, I would tell them, to be honest with you, that, you have to take advantage of the system that's taking advantage of you. I mean, this system is designed to it's a business. This is a big business. College basketball is big business. So if you're not every day trying to do what you need to do, which is going to class, which is understanding that everyone doesn't like you because you are Lamar Bear. They like you because you're a basketball player. You need to understand that dynamic, and you need to understand how to work within that dynamic. And still at the end of the day that you get something from this experience. This is your journey. It's not anyone else's journey. It's not your parents' journey. It's not your AU coach's journey. It's not your high school coach's journey. It's not even your teammates' journey. It's your journey. And you have to, at some point, take control of that journey. And when you take control of that journey, you mature, you grow up. And you're able to experience, obviously, the many other journeys that you have in your life, and you've had experience navigating through those journeys. So if I could ever just say one or two things to these young men in the beginning part of that journey, that sometimes it's not popular, And sometimes, like I said, you have to willing not to be willing to maybe be not liked when you say some of the things you say, you know. And there's 1,000 things I wish I could take back, but I can't. And you just keep moving on, and you try to be better in how you deal with these young men, and use those examples and experience. I'm better today than I was yesterday. And that's the goal for me as a coach, to be better than I was yesterday.
Man, you talking some real good stuff, man. I mean, I love it. Like, you know, what qualities did you look for in hiring assistant coaches?
Good people. I wanted good people who could be good role models for the guys, and you know, something. And I know this is crazy, but I learned this from Ralph Willard. And you find people who aren't like you. You don't want everybody to be like you. You know, you want people who are going to be. I'm an outgoing, talkative person. I want some people who are going to tell me the truth in a different way. I don't want people who are always going to go along with me. But you know, you want people who are going to be good fits for your team first, be great role models for your team. You know, because you know, again, we all make mistakes. We're all not perfect, and that's life. But you know, you want to surround yourself with as many role models as possible. Guys are going to say and do the right things, but you also want to surround yourself with people who give a different perspective. Because at the end of the day, it's tough to be a head coach, and you want as many different perspectives. In a game, you want as many different perspectives on how to play a ball screen. And recruiting a kid, you want as many different perspectives on what this kid can and cannot do. When you're dealing with an issue with a kid, a problem with a kid, an issue with a parent, an issue with a whatever, alumnus, you want as many different opinions of how to go out. Because at the end of the day, it's your decision anyway. And sometimes when you are so demanding that it has to be only your decision and your input, most of the time you're going to make the wrong decision. But when you're able to have people around you who feel comfortable speaking up, saying what they feel, and then you're going to probably end up making the best educated decision you can make. I mean, I can tell you, I've had assistants that we've got into it on the bench, yelling and screaming at each other, me telling them to shut up, and they're telling me, well, you shut up, coach. But I want that, because I had that with the guys. Me and Ralph got it. Ralph would look at me and tell me, shut up. I'm like, all right, coach, but I ain't saying nothing else. But I want that. I learned that, you know, you get more from someone being able to express, because that means that's your true friend. You could tell them what you feel. But if you're going to, if you're an assistant coach right now and you're in a job when you have no input and you're only a recruiter, you're only an administrator, you only do camp, and you can't really say what's on your mind to your head coach, you're in a bad position. You're not going to grow as an assistant. You're not going to reach your full potential, and you're in the wrong job. And eventually that coach is going to replace you anyway, because he's going to try to surround himself with somebody he trusts anyway. So if you're in that situation now, that's not a good situation for you. You want someone who you can be honest with, you can talk with, you can be wrong with, you can be right with, you know, and you want to grow. Like I keep talking about growth. You want to be in every situation you want to be in. You want to be able to grow as an assistant. And you want to be able to grow as a head coach. And those are the things that are most important to me.
Awesome. Now, I know you had your, you know, early in your career, you were at Columbia Union, but we're going to talk about when you get to Hampton. Like, what was that first practice like, or that first game when you're finally in control of your program, a Division I program? First, what was the first practice like? Then what was the game like?
Well, the first practice was funny, actually, because I gave this unbelievable speech. It's a funny story. I gave this unbelievable speech to my staff. You know, we had a Ralph Willard staff meeting that lasted probably 5 hours. You know, we in there 5 hours, and, you know, we were prepared. Everybody's ready. Had the guys lined up on the baseline. I walked out there and had the assistants ready to go. And I'm not going to say the assistant's name, but one of the players said something. One of the assistants said, "Hey, be quiet. Coach is talking." And I'll tell you who the player was. It's Theo Small, which is my favorite player at the time, of all time. A young man who passed away. And Theo, just being Theo, the leader he ended up becoming and was, you know, he looked at the coach and said, "All due respect, my man, you're going to watch how you talk to me." So all that 3-4 hours of us going and taking control of the team, I realized guys are going to be guys. Guys are going to say what they say. Guys with big personalities are going to talk. And it was a good learning experience for me. I was like, okay, sometimes as a head coach, you got to let their personalities be their personalities and let them get after it the way they need to get after it. So that first practice was unbelievable. That first game was unbelievable, especially the first win was unbelievable because what happens when the game is over and you go home or you get on your phone right after the game and you realize for the first time that ticker is going below ESPN and it's showing those scores. And now it's not like being an accountant. It's not like being a lawyer or a doctor. It's different because you're one of the few jobs in the country that your job performance is evaluated after every single contest. Everything you do, there's a million people knowing that Hampton won or lost. And the calls I was getting, and you got congratulations or hanging there after one win or loss, you realize that you're being evaluated on a daily and an hourly basis, which was mind-boggling to me as being a head coach. That you have to, to look at that ticker. Sometimes I would just turn the TV off if I lost because your score would come up 5 times and bring up 5 different memories of why you lost that game. So that was the first memory I had as a head coach.
What did you have to give up to achieve your current level of success?
Well, unfortunately, I mean, family. I learned the hard way. I end up getting divorced, which a lot of coaches end up getting divorced, and I just didn't spend a lot of time at home. I did a great job being a coach, but I didn't do a great job being a husband. The first time I was married, and I can acknowledge that. Everything was about my career, but it's a sacrifice. Obviously I'm remarried now, and it's a sacrifice. It's a give and take. I mean, obviously you have to be with somebody that understands what you do, but you also have to understand that your family matters too. That you gotta, you can't bring your job home. You can't bring it home because, you gotta be able to, last couple of years I've taken probably more vacations in my life than I've taken ever because it's been, my last couple of years for Howard, as you probably know, was very stressful and I was able to last couple of years get my mojo back and, I'm very happy to have that experience and happy for the opportunity they gave me to coach at Howard. But you give up a little bit of yourself when you let that stress get to you and it affects those around you. So I would say utmost it affects your family. You have to give up, and you have to learn to balance that. So and you have to give up, what you want, you have to realize that what you tell your players, you have to live by. You get pulled over, you're not Kevin Nickelberry anymore. You're Hampton's University basketball coach. You're Howard University's coach. You're assistant at LSU. You're gonna be judged different. You're gonna be in the front page of the newspaper. I mean, so you have to understand the responsibility that comes with decisions that you make. So I learned that early on that you have to make great decisions. You look at our business, a lot of guys have been ousted from this business or their business hasn't lasted long enough based on their decisions. So the decisions you ask your team to make, you actually have to give up a lot yourself to be a coach. And a lot of people don't know that. I mean, you can't go out and get tore up like your friends. You can't go out and do crazy things. You can't be seen in spots all the time. You just can't, because the one time you go out and hang out becomes Nickelberry hangs out in clubs, or Nickelberry is a drunk, whatever that is. That's not, I'm saying my name. That's for every coach. People talk. I mean, people, you have to be careful with the decisions you make, and, and sometimes you can't outlive them. I mean, it's amazing to me that the people who really know me know that I laugh and joke. And there are people in this business who say, well, I've never seen them laugh and joke. But most of the people who know me know that that's what I am. Even when I was at Hampton, I was a laughing and joking guy. So in my first years at Howard, that's what I was. So, again, I'm going back to staying true to yourself, but, you have to give up a little bit of that and be okay with, what you give up, for longevity. If you want to last, this is, like I said, this is 31 years for me. And there's a lot of people I came in with who aren't in this business anymore, because there's not a lot of 56, 57-year-old black assistant coaches out there, because it only takes one coach, and I'm just being blunt, it takes one maybe white coach you work for who kills you and you can't get another job. It takes that one guy who, because every time you lose your job, you get fired. People are going to assume you got fired because you didn't get the job done. And so there's sometimes one person that can decide your fate, your destiny, and that's unfair. So you got to, the jobs that you take have to also be jobs. I would never take a job with, somebody I wasn't comfortable with and didn't know, because I've done it long enough to know. People joke with me that Nickelberry knows how to find a job. Well, I know how to keep a job, because I only work with guys that I know that are going to have my back and have my best interests at heart. So I've learned to do that and take care of the kids and have enough, when the kids are graduating, the kids like you enough that they're going to fight for you and you're going to last and have some longevity.
Man, you dropping some knowledge, man. I love this. Like, what is the strangest thing a player has done outside of the basketball court? You've been around a long time now, but like, what's the strangest?
I've had a lot of strangers. I mean, just, I had one player who, very quiet guy, and me and him were pretty close. I thought we were close. We are close. And he had texted me one day and said that, meet me at this address, coach. And I'm thinking, okay, this dude had got in trouble, something had happened, blah, blah, blah. And he was a senior, and I'm like, okay, I kept texting, coach, just meet me here. It's really important. I need you to be here. And I was nervous all day. I ended up showing up to the place I went. It was like a little, looked like a little lounge. And he was 21. So, I mean, and my first thought was, I can't go in here with the players. And I ain't going in no lounge with no players. But then I started hearing music, and I'm like, okay, what's going on here? And I go into the place, and I'm looking for him because I'm going in there to tell him, man, you got to get out of here, man. And I go in there, and they announce the kid's name, and he comes in here with a violin, and this dude was I think he was a master violinist, and no one knew it. That was his secret, and that was what he did. And he was a master violinist, and it was amazing to me to sit there and learn something about him. And I knew respect for him, that that to watch this kid who was an unbelievable basketball player, to have a passion, something he really loved. And it made me see something different. And actually helped me start asking more questions and about what do you do? Because, like I said, those first couple of years of my life was all about recruiting, getting players, and it became more of me inviting guys over to the house and more of what do you like to do outside of this? And I think it expanded what I could become as a coach and a mentor and somebody could connect to players a little bit better.
Well, I'm gonna ask you this, and this is kind of another subject. Like, what movie or TV show title best describes your week?
My week? Movie show best describes my week. Probably This Is Us. I mean, because when you coach as long as I am, you realize your weeks are your weeks. A lot of people want to get into coaching and they see all the great things about coaching, but we spend a lot of long hours. And I tell my wife all the time, this is it. This is what I do. And this, because a lot of times she's like, well, you're just coaching, but it's just not coaching. I mean, it's a lot involved in coaching, and this is what it is. And and you look at the This Is Us show, and you got Randall. I think I got a little Randall in me sometimes. I can be a little emotional, but you got to figure out a way to deal with your drastic day, your complicated day, but at the same time come home and deal with the family and deal with people who always and deal with their little individual things each day. And at the end of the day, you can, good or bad, this is us. This is the Nickelberry. This is what it is. And we find a way to get through that day every day with all the good and the bad and all the drama sometimes. But in the day, you cherish it, and you are appreciative that, again, this is us. This is who we are, and you're thankful for that support staff that you have, that grouping you have, a family.
Beautiful. Hey, what's your favorite word or phrase that you use?
Great. My reason I use great is because I think we have a lot of people in the world, coaches, a lot of people in the world who are all designed to be good. I'm gonna be good at this, I'm gonna be good at that. But I think what separates the one, again, we're in the profession is says there's less than 2% of people who coach in the world, you know. And so to be a great coach and have longevity, you have to be great. You have to be great at what you do. You have to have great work ethic. You have to have great standards. You have to be great at something. People are, how did he do? How is he doing this? Because you have to be great at it. You have to be great at your work ethic. And I think, that I'm big on players at deciding to be great. Great people don't sleep till 12. Great people get up and do push-ups. If you want to be a pro, you want to be a great college player, good players do exactly what we tell them to do. Great players do extra. They get up in the morning. They do 500 push-ups and before they go to sleep, some before they get up in the morning. Great coaches, they're walking 5 miles, and that 5 miles, they make 15 phone calls to parents and to other people just to make sure that they touch base. Good people just do enough. I mean, and good people usually don't last in certain professions, definitely not in coaching. Good people don't last as basketball players because there's a lot of good people. There are a lot of good players, So, I'm looking for the great players. I think somebody wrote a stat the other day. I think I'm one of the top 2 or 3 coaches in the country I've had 14 or 15 rookie of the years, and I think 11 player of the years, and I can't even tell you how many all conference players I've had, and that's a lot. I mean, half of my career I've had a rookie of the year basically. That means that I'm going out there looking for people who can be great, not just people who can be good. And I think so if you're a coach or you're a player, you have to decide: do you want to be good or do you want to be great? Well, there's a different responsibility that comes with great. And that's a different sacrifice that comes with great. And I say great all the time. I don't dominate, and that sounds good, but it's simple. Being great is simple. That's a simple phrase that you can do. That's something that's attainable by everybody and trying to be great.
Simple and powerful. What's the best advice you ever been given?
That you don't. I got this. Usually, again, nothing, no change in life comes without passion and if there's no passion, there's not going to be any change. There's not going to be any movement. There's not going to be any change. I mean, usually, if you see somebody who's very passionate about something, probably something's going to change. Something is going to make someone hear you and change. So you got to be very passionate about things in life. And I'm a very passionate person about things. Like I said, as you know me, I'm very outspoken. I'm one of the few people in our business for the last probably 15 years, I say what's on my mind. I do care what the other coaches who aren't getting jobs. I make many calls every year to help guys get jobs. I mean, I'm one of the ones that they call. Hey, can you help me get this job? Can you help? Yeah, I'll do it because I know somebody helped me, and I know that's important. I said, but the best advice I got, especially when you're going through something, if you're not going through something, that's when you need that small circle you can rely on. And one of my really good friends told me that coach, you got to be okay with not needing new friends, because everyone you meet is not your friend, they're your associates, you know. And in coaching, we see so many people. Not everyone I see out on the road, not everyone who I talk to are friends. They're associates. And I had to be okay with that. I had to be okay with maybe an associate saying something negative about me, or someone, maybe somebody I work for, somebody I used to work for saying something, because those are associates. Then that's their opinion. What to me, when the people who, or your friends, those are the ones you work with, their opinions matter to me. It helps me sleep at night. When they are selling me something that maybe I don't want to hear, that's what matters to me. So the best advice to me was, hey, I'm not looking for any new friends. You know, I don't need any new friends. You know, if a friendship happens, great, but I'm not looking for any. You know, I recognize, I think sometimes young coaches walk in the gyms and, you know, and I just said this last night to someone who called me out the blue, like, can you help me with this job? And my bluntness to him was like, man, I ain't talked to you in 3 years, man. I mean, I said, you want to build relationships with people. Maybe if it's a call every month or a call every other week, send a text, obviously there's some friends I have who I've been friends with in this business for if I hadn't seen them in 3 months, I see them, it clicks right back to where it ended. You know, I get that. But, you know, some of these guys, you know, just think that I can call you out the blue. No, you have to, relationships come with establishing relationships and building relationships and investing in relationships. So, again, I can get a little long-winded, but, you know, just realizing that, you know, that everyone is your friend, and that you don't need to have, at my age, I don't need 1,000 new friends. I'm okay with the group I have. And, you know, and I stopped worrying about what people said. When you know, again, if you're looking at Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and you're worrying about what people said about you, you're not going to survive as a head coach down the road, because, you know, not everybody's going to say everything great about you. You know, you have to realize that, you know, you're going to have a lot of people who hate, using the word the young boys, they're going to hate on you. And you just got to, you know that that's part of what we do. That's what we sign up for the detractors, are part of what we sign up for. Because if you're willing to accept all the cheers, you have to be able to accept the jeers.
Got it, man. I like it. So next to the last question, I'd like to ask this, because this is mine. I'm thinking this, and I believe it. When you get another shot at being a head coach, and are there any changes that you would make from the type of style of play, or type of players from your last program? And I know that depends on where you're at. It's going to depend on the players, but what would those be if that's the case?
Again, you know, I still like playing fast. We want to higher scoring teams. Every team I had, we were long. I still want to play that. I think, you know, you learn from every situation. You know, I definitely would probably adjust. I think the game is changing to not worrying about having a 6'10", 6'11" guy, 6'8" guy, just to have somebody skilled, to get more, probably recruit more positionless basketball. Staffing wise, again, I think, you know, you definitely want to, you know, probably surround myself with probably a little bit more experience this time. I want to set the next person I have up to replace me. You know, I would definitely get a coach in waiting from day one. So somebody, because I think my goal is to push other guys to become head coaches. So if I took a job, I would definitely ask that they allow me to hire a coach in waiting, and somebody who can take over for me at the end of, if it's 4 years or 8 years, you know, they were able to take over. And I think style wise, I think I want to definitely be who I am 95% of the time, rather than the 5%, which is the guy who's able to still hold guys accountable. But at the same time, I don't want to, you know, be that guy who's, you know, yeah, I want to be more, you know, I've watched some guys, and I want to be more an upbeat guy. I thought, like I said, it was 2 or 3 years there when I became mean Manny, and I didn't really like that, you know, and I want to get back to what I'm comfortable enjoying it a little bit more, you know. I feel like I'm at the point in my career I have nothing to lose. You know, I've taken a lot of bad jobs. I've never coached a good job. Every job I've gone in, when I was at Charlotte, they haven't been back to the NCAA tournament since I left, and that was a bad job. I mean, but we made Coach Lutz and those guys. We made it to a very good job. They haven't been back to the tournament. When I was at Clemson, we went to the tournament 4 or 5 straight years. I think they've been back once or twice since we left in almost 15 years. So I mean, and those guys are doing a great job. I'm not saying they're not. I'm saying that I want to I wouldn't be opposed to taking a good job one time. Job that's not also an awful job, so that I don't have so much, building to do. Even though people call me the program builder, which is great. Sometimes, people don't get the small thing that when you're in a black college or a low to mid major, that you got to play 8 or 9, 10 guarantee games a year. So a lot of people aren't educated enough to know that sometimes, especially in a league like the MEAC, the schools like Howard and Coppin and FAMU and other schools have to play 8 or 9 guarantee games. So if you win 15, 14, 15, 16 games in those type of schools, that's really like winning 21, 22, 23, 24 games. Because let's say you split those games. Instead of winning 15, 16 games, you're winning 20 games. So it's a little bit different. A lot of people don't get that. They just look at your record versus maybe Tommy Amkers, who does an unbelievable job. But, those schools, Tommy set up a great structure where he maybe plays 1 or 2 high major games, and the rest he's playing 50-50 games. In our business, 50-50 games mean games you have a chance, 50-50 chance of winning. So I think it's a shame that a lot of coaches who coach at HBCUs get judged off their record and not off the situation, because I think someone like Buck Jones, he's a heck of a coach. He's had some years where he hasn't won 20 games, but when you win in 15, 16, 17 games, that's unbelievable when you're playing the guaranteed games that some of these HBCUs have to play. I think that's not talked about enough. That's, end of the day, the search firms are just looking at your record. They're not looking at what you. I took over a team that won, I think 2 or 3 games before I got there. I can't remember exactly. Wasn't a lot, so to win 7 and 10 and 12 and 15 and 17, that's tough to do. It's tough to do. So, so maybe next time I'll get a better job. But hey, if not, I'm satisfied at being an assistant and contributing as much as I can in this college basketball scheme.
And I'm gonna end with this question: like, knowing what you know now, what would you tell your younger self to prepare for as a head coach?
Not base my reputation based on being a program builder, because that's what everybody, I've been blessed enough to I think I've almost every year I've been in the business, I've been offered another job, which has been a blessing. And when I've been a head coach, I've been offered to go back as a high major assistant somewhere, and when I was an assistant coach, especially when I got to those Clemson years, I was offered head coaching jobs. And even in my time at Hampton and Howard, I was offered other jobs. Even since I've been at LSU, I've been offered different head coaching opportunities. But most of those jobs have been based around being program building jobs. That's my quote unquote, take this team and build up the academics, because we've done a great job of changing APRs and making schools APR higher, graduating kids at a high pace, and changing that program to be respectable and have a chance to win a championship. And so that's, sometimes you can't change what your reputation is. That's my reputation as a program builder. I get it. But if I had to do it over again, when I probably would have took, I won't say the school, but I remember a couple of my friends who told me I had a choice between Hampton and a predominantly white school in a slightly larger conference. And I just didn't feel comfortable about the situation. I ended up taking Hampton. So maybe if I had to do it all again, I would have taken that school, but I don't regret being able to touch young black men every day for 14 years. I don't regret that at all.
Awesome, man. Well, look, I want to thank you again, Kevin, for being a guest on the show and being unmasked. Is there any words you want to leave? You dropped a lot of nuggets today. Anything you want to leave with the people before we leave?
No, other than, this, today you saw a young man commit to Howard. I mean, I think both my parents went to Howard. I think that's huge for our business. I think hopefully more young men to do the same and think about HBCUs, because I'm at a Power Five. Some Power Five coaches think that affects us. There's a lot of players out there. There's enough players for everybody. I think the stronger we get all the schools is better for everybody. I think in this movement, it's something like that is necessary, because we need change. We need people to listen. We need as many people to listen as possible. And the more people listen and the more people hear us and the more action, to me, that was action. And the more action we get, the more it will progress this whole Black Lives Matter, this whole social injustice agenda forward. So my hat's off to that young man and for getting that done, and look forward to what happens in the future.
Great stuff, man. Great words again. I'm sure a lot of people are going to enjoy watching this. And I want to thank you viewers for watching another great show. Stay tuned for the next guests as we get them unmasked. See you next time and stay safe.